Okay, the same thing. Okay, don't go to next versions without knowing it. What is it? Okay, so and also it's proven like 5.2. Okay, with that particular package, whatever release, thus if you use the same thing, it'll get compiled. If it's not getting compiled, then it is like as yesterday we discussed, there may be developer specific problems. Like mission to mission, there will be configurations vary and everything. That can be a problem. Is it everyone who is facing a problem, or is only you are facing the problem? That's the first thing what you guys have to check. If everyone is facing a problem, there is some other problem, major problems. If only one guy is facing, it's a developer specific problem. Now what is the problem? Just try to solve that problem, only that guy. Okay, don't worry about, okay, I am the only guy who is facing, others are working fine. That's okay, let's take other guys' help to get that solution, whatever the things you want to fix it, do that way. Rather than you want to make sure that in your laptop only you have to fix that. Then you have to see what is the configuration issues in your laptop, why it's not working for you. You have to Google whatever error you're getting it in the generics, because your RAM matters, your memory matters. Okay, maybe not for this application, but microservices. Again, here especially the dependency packages, because a lot of packages internally having dependency on other things. Like yesterday we have seen the Python problem, the Python 2, Python 3. That is the problem with the Mac, chipset, Mac chipset, M2 chipset and M1 chipset. Like that, the developer level specific things, you just Google that error, see what is the reasons, then try to fix by yourself. That's a developer specific thing. So you know it's not everyone will face. Okay, so you don't worry about too much about that kind of problem. Only that guy has to struggle to get there. Otherwise, you have to move to some other thing. Okay, there is no other option. Because you are a developer, you are not somebody who doesn't know the code, right? You know the code, and you should know how to fix it also. Otherwise, you are not a developer. If you are not able to crack your problems also, you are not a developer then, right? Then why are you calling as a developer then? Okay, yeah.
Okay, so about the editor issue which you said, I mean, does that make any impact on the build we create? Because I'm getting so many editors.
What is the editor?
VS Code, Sunbird 4.
See, these are inquiry building block. Okay, so see again, as Sunbird 8, are we maintaining that version? Do you really want to know what is happening? Like that, then that's something you have to understand. What is that editor? How it's been built? Everything. So don't go to too much depth of it. If the installation is not working.
No, editor means the VS Code editor.
VS Code.
Yeah.
Oh, VS Code.
VS Code editor. Okay.
I'm getting some errors in the Sunbird code.
Sunbird.
Yeah, I can show you that.
That will show that because it is actually dependent on your TS lint.
Linting.
When you see VS Code,
Yeah.
When you download it, there will be a default TS lint which will be downloaded with the VS Code.
Yes.
So it is nothing but your extension, how your spaces are added, all those things works with that. Now it is developer requirement.
So
you change it and make sure that it will not show you errors.
When
It's
you
not an error actually.
when you install the VS Code,
Yeah.
there's something called extensions. Okay, if I am a Java developer, I'll go and install the Java extensions, which the VS Code will understand your code syntax structure and it'll show it as an error free. For us, we have installed, like I have installed Angular, Azure and C Sharp, envk files, so ESLints.
I think this is an import form related some issue.
Import, if there is an underline error, the red error, so it means that it is not understanding.
So my question is, does that make any impact on the build? My question is this.
Or any extension is
We
required.
do have this error, like extension errors. Okay, we are creating a build. So does that make any impact on it?
See, build issue. When you talk about build issue, if you're pushing a code which is buggy, obviously the build will fail. Okay, to resolve this only we have something Circle CI, which will try to run the test. I mean, which will run the test cases and build. And if the build is successful, only your PR will be merged. That is one part.
Yes.
And when you are having a issue, and if you are suspecting that the build will fail, it will not run here locally also.
Yes, on locally.
If it is not running in the locally, obviously the build will fail.
No, my build is success.
Then I think the code it is.
Two things, okay. You guys are mixing two things again. VS Code. VS Code is not our topic at all. Okay, VS Code specific to developers again. What are the plugins that you installed? What are the plugins that you installed? It depends again. Okay, that's the error is VS Code.
I'm asking because I'm getting this TS link issue only for the Sunbird.
No, you install.
Please, then switch back to Sublime.
Okay,
I'm
just
getting that.
relook into your plugins. What you install the plugins, you have to relook into your plugins and uninstall those plugins. VS Code ka plugins. Okay. Yeah.
I think Rajiv, I think we'll take. I'm sorry.
Okay.
5 minutes. You want me to?
So we
start?
can have questions.
We
that
can have questions.
We have 8 minutes. We don't want to start right now.
I'll
Because
take it
it will-
continuously. Okay.
Post the tea, he'll start one more package actually. It's again one more package. Common
No,
consumption.
no.
will
I
be taken by
have related with next package. I'll discuss and then he will take over on the common consumption.
I think you have first,
Client cloud
client
services.
So can any questions other than the development?
Other than the
it is
VS
very
Code.
specific to a developer. Okay.
See, one simple suggestion for you is, okay, if you get stuck in your machine, I would suggest take one more guy, let him do the same thing. See, is he also stuck at the same?
Correct.
Because developer level, you can't really know what's the problems. Okay, if you take other guys, okay, then you'll get to know what's the problems. Okay, if it's only in your machine, others is working, then you see what's the problem. You have to fix it. You have to try to find the solutions. Any other questions? Pretty much all the libraries are like this. Okay, we'll go touch up a couple more libraries.
One question.
Yeah.
Mike,
Most of us
please.
were speaking about the contracts, right? We code for the contracts.
Yeah.
But holistically, we need to have an understanding about what actually the context of the contracts is, right?
Can you just elaborate? Because I'm not able to understand the question. If you can elaborate it, I'll be maybe. What do you mean by the contract? Is it
Like
API
we have the
contract?
building blocks. We have the building blocks,
Huh.
right? And the building blocks you integrate
Correct.
to build a holistic system.
Correct.
And from the perspective of the holistic system, the contract should be available,
When we say
right?
contracts, see the thing is, each building block exposes something. Let's assume if I want to say ED. ED
Right.
has certain items which is exposed by ED.
Right.
Knowledge has certain items which is content. Yesterday we understood knowledge has exposed something called as content.
Right.
It is exposed as an API. Just now Madhu clearly explained the contract is the API. API takes a request, gives back a response. The request is the contract which downstream will be sending to knowledge or their API. They will use that particular request which are already defined key. I want this request to be like this. Let's assume, just to give an
Like
example.
CSL itself interface one. That is
Just
an
an
example.
example I want to give you. Yesterday we talked about search API.
Right.
We said composite search. What was the composite search criteria? It can be a simplest example is it can be a query, it can be a string. Okay, that will be the contract. Now you are for a search API, contract can be a query which will be sent to knowledge. They will understand that query, comes back with a response to us. A response
That
also
I
is a
understood.
contract.
What
Yeah.
we had as a program to the interfaces, the contracts are like an interface. If you have any REST API, you will have a kind
request
of
and a response.
interface,
Yes,
right?
yes.
So that is understood. But from the context of the, say, the system, for what purpose you have built the building blocks, that should be very much clear
I think
for
in
anyone
the
to understand the
microsite it has been
contracts,
clearly
right?
explained ki why we have built different building blocks. If you can go
Because
through that,
how it is said is we use the Sunbird building blocks to match to our own domains, right? It could be the domain of education or for the agriculture. So from that perspective, we have to have some kind of analysis. In your documentations, if I see, I don't get that line of analysis, how to actually relate the building blocks to the domain for which I am actually trying to build it.
see, the thing
So
is,
from that perspective, if we understand, so from the top level, I have to come and reach to the bottom level where actually the interfaces will be more relevant.
No, okay.
Right.
To come to that, yesterday Sharath clearly explained each building block, if you take by itself, what you are going to get, if you get, okay, if I am talking about, I'll come there. If I am talking about knowledge, you will get contents. You are going to create contents, the current operation of a content
Right.
or a collection, whatever it might be. Okay, and depending on this content, there are certain items which are like your editors, which is again content creation, players, again content playing. You have items like that.
Right.
Okay, that is what is knowledge building block all about. Now, next thing was your learn building block.
Right.
Learn building block, what are the things? We said organization, then we have, okay, sorry, yeah, we have an organization, then in the organization we have users, and in the once you create an organization, immediately there will be a channel which will be created for the same organization.
Right.
Which is a copy of the, let's say, right now I can talk about, it will be identical number, which your organization ID and the channel ID can be same and all those things. I don't want to jargon with those terminologies right now, okay?
Right.
So, that copy will be created in your knowledge, because all your content is associated with the channel, okay? It is not associated with the organization, it is associated with the channel, okay? So, it is added inside the knowledge. Again, channel goes back and sits in knowledge platform. Now, if you want to take each of the building block and try to understand it individually, that is how you can understand. But once you combine all those things, that is Sunbird ED.
Right.
Now you have to think. Now it is your responsibility to think why I want to use Sunbird. Whether you want to use it for educational purpose, you can use it. You want to use for, yesterday we gave an example, hospital. I want to train my hospital staff, let's assume a new nurse came in. I want to train her how to operate one ventilating system. Just as awesome example, ventilator system. A new nurse came, she has to understand what is the oxygen level, it has to be there, depending on the criticality of the patient, we have to adjust that. If I want to train her, what is the structure that I have to, it's again a video, it may be just a video or a PDF.
Right.
Again, it's a content. You are putting it into knowledge. But how are you going to get it discoverable is because of your taxonomy. So,
Right.
in place of board grade medium subject, I'll say, okay, this is an organization, hospital. In the hospital, this is a critical ICU. In the ICU, this is going to be the terminology which is for ventilators. Let's assume.
The story is very big. That's what.
Okay, yeah. Sorry. Yeah.
We should have some level, the level of driving the knowledge, right? At the top level, how actually we should actually understand and how we dive in.
Okay. Just to stop you. Okay, I'll just explain that. Okay. Yesterday we wrote the chart saying that why the Sunbird Learn being used and why the knowledge being used, why the co-create being used. High level, we given that, right? High level, not in depth. Because ed, when you are doing it, when you are taking the ed, you know to understand each and everything what is internally, all those APIs and all. The contracts, we are talking about contracts.
The relation between the contracts
That's what, okay. Again, the contracts.
has to be a bit more clear. That's
Huh. So until the contracts, if you see the API request, right? There are many APIs. Until you go each and every contract, you can't really understand what is that contract mean. Same thing, until you go each and every building block level detailed, just not high level, detailed about each and every building block, you can't understand the contract. Because you guys not the guys.
that context, no, it has to be holistically established. What all contracts you have and how actually.
Individual contracts are existing and there are different teams are working on individual contracts. It's not like one guy is understanding about all the contracts.
See, all the APIs
You should not
are
really think of that
exposed.
way, because if you want to understand all the contracts,
It's not required, but you have to set the scope. Top level scope should always be available.
yesterday
Make the
if you see my
what happens the contracts will go out of the context when actually I am putting to the domain.
see yesterday I just given a very high level glimpse of it, right? Knowledge, content management, learn, user management, okay, and co-create is a working together, the content creation together. That's a very high level thing. Now the solutions, is specific. If you know this, which building blocks are doing what. Now you decide for your solution which one to adopt, whether you want to adopt it or you want to adapt individual building block only. That's what a very high.
The example like taking one context and starting from the top level. This is the use case.
No, if you explain what is your,
Like this are the building blocks I'm fitting in and the contracts of this.
what is meant by contracts there? Is it because contracts is nothing?
If I see in any of the other cloud platforms, they usually give something like the pattern for data pipe or the pattern for an e-commerce, something is built so that we understand from the top business case to the contracts how it is used and everything. So that type of implementations we will have as an example.
Before we go, you are the front-end architect or
I will be general architect of all.
general architect of all the things? I think probably we'll answer that with Amit Bansal here.
Okay.
We'll stitch that story with Amit Bansal.
Okay.
And you'll get a picture of, we'll take an example of a course or something.
Right.
From a reference app point of view, let's say from a UI UX design point of view, right? There's some code that the front-end team will write. And how are the contracts built from knowledge and learn? I would want Amit Bansal and Samarth to do it because that Katie is already done. So let's do a jam session on that. Because you are not part of those sessions, probably you don't have that idea. But Amit Bansal has that idea because he set up dev environment. He's there from day one as an architect. So he knows the stuff, right? So if you're expecting that stuff from today, I don't think, because this team is focused on giving Diksha code KT and walkthrough modules and all as per the request from Sohanji and Abhishek ji. We are doing that. So if you want to do a jam session on that, sure, we'll do that once Amit Bansal is here. I think he's doing some setup with Santosh.
But you
Yeah.
also go through the Sunbird website, because all of the questions that is there, I think all of
Last
us.
1 month.
Yeah. I didn't get your name. You're Mahesh.
Any other questions? Yes, specific to this topic, okay? Because if it is specific to topic, then it's very easy to answer because otherwise it will go somewhere where we can't really get the right questions to answer, okay? Anything specific to CSL? Client Service Library?
CSL or any
Okay, the short form, yeah.
yeah.
CSL or any packages. You can call it as any packages. We have so many packages. You would have seen it in your package.json. You can ask any questions
That
on
will
that.
take after two
Yeah.
more libraries. are done.
If it is relevant to his topic, that is common consumption, is going to taken by Bharat, and there is one more called as client cloud services, which Rajesh will be taking up post the tea session. Okay, tea break. He will be taking it up.
Yeah. So we have another two packages to discuss. So once we travel through that, you will have answers for a lot of questions, which we were telling like we'll see in that session, this session. But in the first off, we'll have clear picture like the packages, how we are interacting and how we are using it in the ed, right? With two more sessions, we'll have a better picture on all this stuff, right? And additional note, second half will be deep diving on portal backend. As I said in the morning, that we'll discuss on the login anonymous user sessions, how authentication is happening, API checks, whitelists. That's an important topic in the second half. Okay, just highlighting.
Yeah.
So if you're
Yeah,
good,
I
then
think
we'll
we
come
can
back.
break for the tea.
So we'll meet at 11:20 or 11:15.
11:15? No, 5 hours.
11:30. Okay. So we'll get started.
Okay.
So in the last session, we had deep dived into client services, which is used by front end, and how we use it and what is the purpose and how we have generalized and externalized, right? So I hope we have good with the CSL and no questions on that. We can move it forward, right? Okay. So now we will look into another NPM library, which is Cloud-Service-SDK. So the package is used by ed portal backend. I mean ed backend, basically, right? So yeah. So the repo is done by ed client cloud services and pointing to 2.0. Is this better?
Yeah.
So this package, okay, is used by Portal backend. As the name suggests, it's a cloud services. So this package interacts with the cloud, the core services. How we are actually using this? Why we have done externalized? Again, generalize, externalize. This is a concept. So if you look at the the high level diagram, excuse me, this is a base storage service, and we have extracted to all other services. This is a high level view. Now what does this package does? It helps us to communicate to the blob storage with the proper credentials of that respective service provider. Okay, let's say I have an Azure or AWS or GCP. I have a set of credentials for the cloud. For example, AWS might require the account, AWS secret and the account name, right? For the GCP, we need the JSON file. For Azure, we need the account name and the account key. So with the proper credentials, you will be able to communicate with the blob storage. So why it was externalized? Because previously, we had pointed out only to Azure. Okay, any calls from Portal backend which has an interaction with the blob storage, it was directly going into Azure. So we thought we can externalize this, and we extended this service which supports Azure, AWS, GCP. As of now,
OAS.
As of now, OCI also.
OCI also.
Okay.
They have
Just-
contributed back.
Yeah, they have contributed back to the community. So I think that I'm not referring, because I'm referring to 2.0 itself. So we have externalized this, and now this package is used by Portal backend. Now Portal backend is agnostic. It doesn't know where I'm communicating to, which cloud provider I'm communicating to, because we don't bother. Like as an head, I need this particular file from the blob, right? That's my ask and that's my request. I contact the client cloud services. I say, boss, this is my container name, this is a file name, and fetch for me. Okay, for an example, let's say this has a knowledge of where I need to communicate. Which should I contact Azure or AWS or GCP? Right? Are we aligned? Because I don't see any acknowledging faces. Okay, so that's how it is. Now we might see why base storage service, right? This is to expose something, a kind of a handshake or a contract, saying that base storage service is a contract if you are using this client cloud services. Okay, there are there are methods defined, which says that get file, download the stream the file, uploading the file. Methods is written as a wrapper, okay, to the core AWS SDK or Azure SDK, whatsoever, right? So when you are using Azure or AWS or whatever, use OCI. Tomorrow we might get Cisco. I'm not sure if it is providing IBM or okay. Thanks, IBM. Okay, you need to align and adhere the rules with the base storage service. Okay. We say that this method needs to be implemented, boss. If you are using this service, we need around this methods to be implemented. This is a wrapper. Now we'll look at the code and we'll see how it is extended, how we are using it. So tomorrow we introduce that. You write the methods and definitions of that, and then you can publish it. Okay. The reason, because as we saw in the CSL, we had to get download certificates. The wrapper remains the same. The inner functionality changes. Okay, Azure might call the download file with a single line, like Azure instance, Azure.download URI, pass the container name and it will get. But in case of AWS, we need to generate a command and we need to send it to AWS SDK. Those SDKs have a different convention and syntax. That's the reason we said that this is the convention or the contract to be followed. Then you extend whatever your storage services. You can write it for FS also, not a problem. You can write it for file system also directly, which supports reading from your server and then sending the file. Yeah, are we clear with the architecture and how we have, what are we looking at the services as? Yes. Yeah. So any questions to this, or can I get into the code through? Yeah. So, base storage service. Okay. So before start with the code. So as I said, portal will not be aware of what this I'll be calling. The beauty and the advantage of this externalizing is, okay, tomorrow I have migrated some of the blob storage contents to one provider to the other provider. It might be X to Y or Y to X, right? Now portal will call the wrapper method itself, okay, but the configuration which is passed, to the provider, the provider will communicate to the SDK as configured. Okay, if I am passing an, I'll show you what is the configuration to be passed. If I am passing an Azure config set of credentials, it'll directly talk to Azure SDK. If I am passing an AWS, it will talk to AWS SDK. So there is no code level change required at end, rather than you just change the configuration how it works. Again, the JSON plays a major crucial role here. The configuration object what we pass, the behavior depends on the JSON object, right? That's the key thing here. Okay. So let's look at the base storage service. So the base storage service has a list of methods which defines the description and what is the basically a documentation for each of the method. What does it do and what does it return? A simple, straightforward, not with the extraction level. So here download file, I accept the parameters container name file to download and is directory false. And this this will not have the definition of the the function extraction here. It's just a class which says that I need to implement this. Tomorrow you're extending this and you don't write a download file method definition. Obviously when you try to run the application, it says that base storage service download file must be implemented. This is something which is we are ensuring at a second level that all the methods are implemented by as we know. Give me an example. IBM. If I am implementing it, I see that I don't want a download file. I just want a get URI method. I'll go with only this. I'll ignore. No, that cannot happen. The contract what is mentioned should be followed, because this is used by Ed or any other services. They will be depending on this, right? If you are for IBM, if you discard download file, and let's say desktop is having this feature as a debate download file, and we are pointing to IBM, I don't have a method, so obviously application will come down. Okay, so whatever is mentioned, the base storage service needs to be implemented when you are extending the new services, right? So you can go through all the methods. It says that an error message will be mentioned saying that what is the service name, what is the method must be implemented. So looking at the error message, you can go and see what is what should be implemented. So those level of exceptions are handled. Now we'll have a look at Azure and AWS.
Yeah, that once he completes, I'll explain certain other things also.
So I'm just trying to onboard them. Yeah.
Once he completes this, I'll explain the latest changes that we have done. So let him complete with the 2.0. We will show there were certain things that we wanted to improvise also. So we have added it in the latest versions. I'll explain what are those once he completes this.
Okay. So I'm taking an example. Okay, get file as text. Okay, so this means that whatever the container name and the file I'm passing to the service, okay, give me the file as a TXT format, basically a UTF-8 encoding method. Okay, so when we look at Azure and an AWS, Azure has a different kind of implementation. Okay, the wrapper remains the same, the implementation differs to extract the file from the blob storage. So when we look at AWS, it has a different way of communicating with the core AWS SDK. Okay, so we here construct the bucket name, we do all this thing, and then we this dot client dot send. So the client refers to the AWS initialization what we have done in the service in the constructor method, right? So we take this object, and the dot send is a convention from the AWS SDK core SDK, okay, which is the legacy npm package. Then we need to send the command to the AWS SDK. If you look at, we have a generic function which says that to construct command, we have around 10 to 15 methods. Each method we have to construct a command to the AWS. So we have written one generic which will take the request and give us the command. So this is the implementation level. Okay. So anything, the extraction level, the base class names remains the same. The part of the function differs from AWS, Azure, or OCI, or IBM, or XYZ, whatever is introduced tomorrow. Okay. So any questions with this?
That's AWS storage service or
Sorry.
Azure storage service at all. That whether you are defining in the common
Library.
It's in the SDK itself. It's in the SDK itself.
SDK itself. Okay.
It's in the library itself actually.
Actually, I did not get the question, but
See, you might be defining somewhere, right? AWS storage service.js.
okay, this is completely an where we are talking about npm package. npm package. I have not gone into the consumer. I'm just making sure that.
NPM package you are defining. Like suppose OCI I am using.
I'll come to that. I'll show you how.
The next step would be, I was about to explain.
Because that methods will override.
Excuse me, can we stop the annexes? Yeah.
That methods gets override based on the type
Provider.
Yes,
Provider.
exactly. So,
Correct.
okay.
based on the provider.
Correct.
So that is the implementation level. So once we build this becomes as a package. Okay. Now we have the client cloud services. Now I pass, let's say AWS. It gives me all the methods, which I export a variable which you can use it for communicating to the AWS. Have all the methods exposed to the consumer who is calling. I'll show you the consumer part. I'll talk about it. Once we are done with the SDK, we'll switch to the consumer part. So this is with the extraction and generalization. So here the head will be unaware of like whom should I contact or how should I communicate with the blob storage. Okay. So this directly contacts the blob itself with the legacy npm packages. If you look at package.json, right? Okay, for the AWS, we are using @AWS. Again, the scope package because it's maintained by and published with the AWS itself. For the GCP, we are using Google Cloud, and for
Azure Store.
Okay. Yeah, for the Azure storage, it is Azure storage. Yeah, this is a legacy SDK which is maintained and published by Azure itself. Okay.
Where is this OCI?
Okay, one second.
OCI, I'll hand over it to Rajiv.
Okay. So the thing is, he is showing in this only. We can go ahead.
So, but this is in Git rep.
Yeah.
Yeah, every
No, I'm just trying to be cloud agnostic.
Okay,
In that
okay.
perspective, OCI should be also part of this.
Yes, exactly. But I was referring to another different version. OCI I am giving to Rajiv, so he will just take care.
So is this wrapper available in Sunbird ED?
Yeah, every repo is public, not a private repo.
But it's showing only main branch. It's not showing the version which you're using.
Showing blog.
Okay. Once he completes, he can show the client also. Once we have completed it. Okay.
No.
So if you see the current release,
GitHub, not
he
the
was
GitHub
going
part.
with 2.0.0, which was used in 5.1 of Sunbird release. Okay. Before the OCI. Once the OCI is completed, the current release is
Branch will
actually
be same.
6.0.0, which Sunbird release is 6.0.0. Similar to that, client cloud services, if you can see, OCI has also contributed. It has been published also.
Just click that OCI.
I'll come. 1 second. Please be a bit patient. I'll just go one by one. So the thing is, we had the thing is the package was not complete because it cannot be tested independently. You should have you have to implement it in client or somewhere you have to do it. So what we said is, okay, we will improvise it because nothing is complete until you keep on improvising. Even us, we will keep on improvising, we study new things. Similar to that, if you go to 2.0.0, we did not have this demo project. What happens is, there is a node project, which is a demo project, which is internally available. You clone this whole system. You can run as a node application itself and test it out. You don't have to have any client. You can have, if I go to the demo project, right? There is something called as environment. which is nothing but the providers, whatever is required to initialize whichever cloud you want to initialize it. Whether you want to initialize OCI, whether you want to initialize Azure or GCP or AWS. Okay, anything can be initialized. Once this is initialized, all the I think if you can go to README file of this, all these are how to see that. Yeah, so all these are. These are the environmental variables, how to do it, and all those things have been mentioned here, and how to install it, how to run this, and there are links. You can test it out. If you have a cloud provider, cloud file available, try to get a metadata of it, you can do it. Try to download a file, you can do it. Try to upload a file, you can do that. All the APIs are exposed for you, and you can test it out without any client in this only. Whether you have written it properly or not. Let's assume you add one more and try to contribute. You can test it before it is pushed into this. Okay.
The only prerequisite should be you mentioned AWS, you need to have an S3 bucket. You mentioned an Azure, you need to have the bucket set up.
Yes.
Okay.
Those things we will not be providing. Okay. You have to do it.
No,
And
these things we'll be doing on, let's suppose it is OCI. On OCI I will be doing, right? Running.
yeah, you can see the thing is
automatically it will take that storage, right?
here you have to provide in the environment. You have to provide what is the provider, the identity of the provider. It can be a key. Okay. Credentials for that particular, whether it's a private repository, public repository, all those things, and then I think in the README it has been clearly
to
given.
add this generalized key is a language which is understood by the npm package. The right hand side, what is this equivalent name or equivalent meaning for in terms of Azure, AWS, GCP and OCI. Tomorrow IBM, for identity, I may say IBM can provide a account private key. So that is the explanation for that. So generalized key is the language which is understood by the npm
Module.
We can't have a different JSON object for each provider. Then usage becomes a more tedious task. We have commonized certain keys. The meanings are mentioned, so you can understand and you can pass the values.
Okay, I'll with your request, I just open the OCI thing. Okay, this again OCI is using the base storage, that is the basic that we had given, and they implemented all those methods which are like, let's assume get file exists. First thing is file exists. Let's assume whether the file exists in the blob or not. That is written over here. Okay, and it is extending the base class. Okay, similar to that. Okay, I can reduce this.
I have a question.
Yeah.
Sorry. So, for example, this S3 key, you are saying that you have to go and define there in the property master file.
For testing.
Yeah. So, to set it up. So, let's say if we have to set it up on the new environment. So, all these environment will get automatically populated when we do the installation, or you have to do it manually.
I didn't get it. Can you just repeat?
I got it. So the installation of this package does not have anything to do with the configuration. Okay. So this package is something tool which will help you to communicate to the different cloud providers under one code. Now, when we set up new environment, like the environment is like actual servers what we are talking, right? So when we set up an environment, it has nothing to do with. But when we set up a blob storage, like in Azure, if you are setting a blob storage, those set of keys or credentials required for this package to communicate to the bucket. Okay. So for example, we have an Azure. Now tomorrow we set up a let's say AWS. Okay. AWS is set up. We have VMs to run, but we have created an S3 bucket. Now AWS provides some credentials for how to access that S3 bucket. That is required for this service to run.
So to access like for Azure blob storage and for S3. And
Any cloud provider you take, the data what we store, it cannot be yeah.
As far as infra provisioning is concerned, my understanding is that, so I am asking, I don't have in-depth knowledge.
No, please go ahead.
For infrastructure provisioning, we already have certain pipelines. Right? So for example, when we moved it from Azure, we have built certain pipelines for creating the storage, maybe block storage or block or whatever kind of storage
Okay,
we
okay.
want. So we have those pipelines. My understanding is that whatever storage you want to create, it will go and create that infrastructure for you, be it
Yes.
VM, storage,
Yes.
application, whatever it is.
Yes.
Then, that particular pipeline will also going to come and update these environmental variables, which we have to specify.
Correct.
Correct.
Correct. That will be updated in the DevOps repository. Okay, that is, this is actually a, okay, I want to
I think
call it
we are
as a,
standalone. We are. I think I'll relate to the consumer perspective. So it will define how the services are getting detected when the keys are changed. This is where standalone. We are explaining. about the
standalone,
service.
if you want to test it, you have to write
manually
that,
we have to write
manually
it.
add it. But for, let's assume the consumer, in place of, in our case, let's assume portal can be a consumer, mobile can be a consumer, desktop can be a consumer. Now, for these consumers, we already have a desktop environmental variables or portal environmental variables which are coming from our DevOps repository. So from there only we will read it and we will push it into this one. We are not writing anything else. It will be given from the DevOps repository.
Okay, just to explain a little more. Okay, if you see today, OCI, there's something the OCI infra, right? OCI setup, some OCI cloud storage service is giving, using for Diksha. They have set up a infra for you guys already. That is been set up by the DevOps team or whatever it is. The buckets and everything they configured, what buckets name required and everything, infra is ready. All the service is being deployed. Now, this service, whatever he just explained about it, this is one of the NPM package, which is we call as a JavaScript package. Any JavaScript applications can use this package to talk to the cloud services. Now, this package have a capability to talk multiple cloud services. That's what he just showed you, AWS, OCI, Azure, and GCP today, the 4 cloud services, this package can talk. Tomorrow, new service may come. Now what, assume that IBM, that's what the example he is giving. As IBM infra want to use by some other adapter guy. Now that, this service can talk to that IBM? No, there's no implementation of that. Now IBM team will come and contribute to this library. How to talk to IBM? What are the changes required? All the methods? No, that's the contract, the base class, what he is talking about. IBM should know what are the methods I have to implement first of all. That interface is defined all the methods, what are methods they have to implement it. Now IBM can come and contribute to this repo, okay, IBM interface, all the methods, which will talk to IBM. And this service, forget about who is adopting it. Now this service can talk to these cloud services, all the methods are available. Now who is going to use this service? This service is independent, it's tested by independently, that's what demo for our project what he showed. IBM can use the demo project to test it and it's working. Now whoever is adopting this library, integrating this library, today the portal, Sunbird 8 portal, integrate this library. Now, that's what consumption you will cover in here. Sunbird portal is telling you what instance I am using it to this library. This is what I was saying you, okay. So like if you say Diksha use case, Diksha is telling as a configuration to this library, I want to use OCI. Now this library knows now, okay, because configuration coming as a OCI, it will only talks to OCI, even though it has implementation of others, because in this use case, when it's integrated, configuration coming as OCI, it will talk to OCI only. Some other guy can say, okay, I am passing you as Azure, now this will know only talks to Azure. Whoever has integrated this library, that guy is giving the configuration to that. Okay, this is the concept of pretty much, okay, that's what he's going to cover more detail.
Yeah. Now he will talk about the client, let's say Sunbird. In Sunbird portal, how it has been implemented. Yeah.
Go ahead.
For this particular client,
I think we have to, one second.
Okay, so like my first question is actually this particular code that you are seeing, this isn't public, I think.
This is public.
I couldn't find it actually, and this package also I found it on socket.dev.
NPM also.
NPM also it is there. Every NPM repo or GitHub what we are talking is public, no private repository.
I actually couldn't find this. I did try
Can
a
you
lot.
try it right now itself?
Can you try right now? If your
Yeah, yeah, I
internet is
did.
working?
I did.
If that is the case, then it's a major problem to be addressed.
There is no private code. Every single line of code we write is in public repository.
Yeah,
There
that
can
that's
be
what I.
private if the developer is writing something and he is keeping it in
No,
his
he is
server.
not able to find the repo. That's the problem
No.
statement.
Client cloud services. Just,
Yeah, right.
just serve Sunbird ED. You have portal code base, right? You have
Right,
portal
right.
code base.
Right, right.
In that, okay, I'll just
See,
explain.
Rajiv, one second, Rajiv. The Sunbird-ED contains all the repository list. This is the
this is what
or-
I-
Let's not worry
in
about
that, under that, you have to check.
It's there.
Okay, let's assume we have searching for portal. Okay, this is your Git, correct? Now let's assume you want to search for something which is.
These are all end organization. What are GitHub repos that somebody is running.
59 repositories.
So these are public. Within this, can you search for cloud?
Client, cloud services.
This is a service that what we're talking about. Can you see that?
Okay, I was.
Sunbird 8 is a public repository.
And it is tagged as public.
Okay.
All your packages are mostly Sunbird 8 packages will be in Sunbird 8. If it is knowledge, it will be Sunbird knowledge. It will be learn, it will be Sunbird learn. All your packages will be inside Sunbird only, and everything is open source. Nothing to hide.
Okay, actually, like when I was searching on Google, I used Project Sunbird for
No,
that.
here
but
also,
for
if
this-
you see, let's assume, let's open.
So
the
whenever, when we are demonstrating, right, you will definitely see this public with that repo name saying that all these repository are public. Private repository, there is no concept of private repository here in the Sunbird.
In the Sunbird only.
Everything is open, everything can be viewed, without GitHub credentials also. You can go through the code, you can download the code, you can do whatever you want. To check in, you need the GitHub credentials. So everything is public. Nothing is, under the hood or nothing like that.
Only one private repository is Sunbird. Sunbird today. Can you tell anyone what is
Anyone?
private? Okay. The keys, okay, I mentioned, right? Okay, there is a lot of keys, which is private. Okay, nobody should be exposed. You should not expose to anyone else.
I don't know.
That's what a DevOps private repository, where all the keys DevOps where the
I can correlate to
that can
that.
be used only at the time of deployment. No way it's exposed, nobody can, developers can use it.
Current version
Only
is 3.4,
auto
which is
deployment
exposed.
process, that key is being used.
2.2 was the one which was.
That is, when yesterday when we saw that environment variable
currently we are
helper file,
using 3.0
we spoke about left hand side and the right hand side. I say that env dot, this gets injected during the deployment process. That is only one repo, which is obviously to maintain all the secrets we need a private repo. You can't keep it public and we can say no, please use this.
Even none of the developers also have access to that.
Definitely we have not seen that repo.
No one have access to that private, except the developers.
Okay, I hope you are able to see the repo, right?
Yeah, now I can. Because I couldn't search from Google actually.
Maybe some of the repos, which is, this is actually newly getting added, right? So indexing, the Google page indexing takes time. But I can show you one thing. So if I go to Google, okay, and if I search for Sunbird, DevOps, GitHub, the first thing will come, because that is one thing which is, DevOps people keep checking if there is any deployment changes or some env needs to be added, some other the building blocks gives us a new environment variable to be added. They keep checking in. So the access to the repo, the indexing is much faster. The client cloud services, I think it is recently.
Nobody is changing other than the
Developers.
service providers. Okay.
And the developers.
So it all depends on that also. Okay, Google is something which, yeah. Okay, so now we have seen about the npm package. Now we'll see.
One more question.
Oh, okay. Sorry, I'm sorry.
Yeah, actually, like this was related to a bug that we had. Like I was there was some content which is posted in the OCI bucket.
Okay.
Okay. So what it's doing was there was a bug that URL that's coming on the portal side, it was working fine. That proper bucket URL is coming, but on the mobile end, there was a extra slash appended on one of
In the
at somewhere.
configuration, see the thing is environmental variables. In the environmental variable, when you said endpoint, let's assume that it is called as an endpoint, right? So the service provider, client cloud service provider, they would have added an extra slash when they configured that variable ka There is a key and a value. Maybe the value they would have added an extra slash, that's all.
No, actually it was in the midst of that URL, not on the side where the configuration variable would have been. Like there was this NTP content production bucket, there was one. So after public there was a double slash. So that I was trying to figure out how to even debug it, like how to.
Okay, so to answer this, I may not drive to your particular point of solution, but I can channel through what direction you can look into it.
Sure.
Okay, so this particular URL thing, right? Whenever we are fetching it and the return URL what we are getting, okay, there is something CNAME placeholder, okay, which is handled by the DevOps. I think you can contact with them. That CNAME placeholder, if the value is having extra slashes, that gets prepended or prefixed with the return value. That's what I understand. Okay, so that is nothing to do with this service, because this service accepts the container name, where I have to, which bucket I have to look, what is the file I have to look, get it, give it, right? The URL what you are telling is not by here. It is by CNAME. If it is prefixed, or the placeholder CNAME is nothing but, let's take github.dev/sunbird/ed. Assume that this is a cloud CNAME, okay, that is the cloud name. It can be Azure-blob storage or AWS blob storage URL or OCA or whatever XYZ. That is something which is configured in the DevOps folder private repo. Why? Because to give one step ahead of betterment of this understanding, we have a URL for the download. No matter what, you keep it in whichever bucket. Right? You put it in S3 or you put it in put it in a Gmail. When you download, you will have a copy URL, right? That URL is tightly coupled with the provider what we see. So we wanted to decouple that, and we need to have only the path of the file. Okay. Let's say we have reports. Under the reports we have course name. Under the course name you have a usage report. Let's say with 3 level. I just need this path. No matter what the cloud bucket where I'm putting it, this path remains the same, right? So reports, course name, and usage reports. These 3 steps remains the same. The value which is before that will change, because AWS has a different URL, Azure has a different URL. That is made it as a CNAME in the placeholder in the DevOps repo. That value might have some double slash, where we can look into, DevOps can help into checking.
Only one content.
And it is. Oh, okay. Then you are talking about content read API, is it? So in the content read API or hierarchy API, you are telling the blob URL.
The signed URL maybe, hierarchy API.
So that is something which we have to look into.
Just to tell you guys, the CNAME, whatever you told, even the way we explained the cloud agnostic, all the services, backend services also cloud agnostic. No one in the database, we are not showing the absolute path of the blob anywhere in the database. Because if you store absolute full path of the blob, when you move to Azure to OCI, entire database has to be migrated. All the paths has to be renamed, right? What we have done is, we will not store full path, we will store only from the bucket, what is the path. And the initial host path is a configuration for the services. For all the services, host path, bucket, before bucket, whatever the OCI ka host and Azure ka host, the configuration now. Now, when the API, when you make any API call, the service is appending this host path plus bucket, full path of till the bucket, till the file name, joining these two and giving us a response back. You have to see what went wrong in that particular content for that ID. What is being stored in the database? With the slash, it may be stored in the database. That's what it's always as appending slash again when you're combining both the things. Okay, but how it happened? If it's something that has manually happened, that's the root cause you have to really figure it out. Okay, but logically, when the API is giving you, always should be common for mobile and portal. It cannot give a different thing, because service is giving that complete path to you guys.
And only for 2 items if it is doing, means it is some mismatch would have happened.
Some migration issues.
Yeah.
So then something we have to check. Okay. So we have seen the SDK part. Now, how do we consume it in our ED? Okay. We have seen the standalone demo application as explained by Rajiv. Now we'll see with our focus more into how ED is using this. Okay. On a side note, I am referring to 5.2.0, the release. Okay, you can see the branch. This part of configuration object, the contact between the service and the head, I think it is updated. Maybe in the next release notes or release they might be publishing it because this I am referring to 5.2.0 and singular branch name. So here, okay, let's say a cloud provider is one which is configured in the env helper. Okay, so I think we have all seen this env helper, this variable across the portal code base, right? So it's nothing but the environment variable helper file which is exported. Now this value is injected during the build process. As we reiterate, that's but the private repo value, it's re-injected, right? Based on that value, okay, if it is if the application is deployed with Azure or AWS, those set of configuration will be constructed in the object. Okay, because in case of AWS, I'll construct this with whatever the Sunbird AWS access key or secret key and region and what is the reports bucket name. I'll construct the object and I'll call the service, which the client cloud services which I've installed, and say that initialize this package with AWS for me. Okay, now you have all four. Give me only AWS initialized. Now what it will do, it will initialize and give a client, AWS client, which will help us to communicate. That's a vanilla client. It is not yet completely initialized with the credentials. We are just taking the vanilla class. Now we are creating one more new AWS, extending that with AWS configuration, whatever we have constructed here. Now it knows that, okay, I have the responsibility to and the ownership to communicate so and so bucket with these credentials. So now that is exported in the index.js file. Okay, so as a cloud client variable. Now across all the portal backend, if I refer the cloud client in our example, if I have configured for AWS, I will be able to communicate with all the methods which is defined in the npm package service. Are we good with the head? Now how we are using this? But in the demo project, we saw this JSON mentioned in the env.js file that we have to configure it this thing. But in case here, it is entirely thing is dynamic. So tomorrow, in case if you are from AWS, if you want to switch back to GCP, okay, this one DevOps folder you need to change the value, redeploy it. All the services will directly communicate to the GCP. You no need to do any code change at any consumer side because it solely depends on configuration. The switching back logic is at the Sunbird DevOps, where you change my cloud provider is not AWS, it's GCP, the keyword whatever, I think for G-Cloud, okay, G-Cloud. Then if you redeploy the service, every service will start communicating to your G-Cloud without any, user cannot know that there is a change in the cloud provider, right?
So this is actually the older code. So when we
implementation I have to show, sir.
No, you don't need. They can have a look on that actually. Yeah.
So I'll the storage service is nothing but I'm calling that index file where I've done that export, right? I'll be calling it as storage service and .client and the get file as text method which we saw in the npm service file. So whatever the the function params as declared in the contract in the base storage service, you pass that values and it gives you the response from the blob. Cool. So here the client that is ed does not know with this line whether I'm communicating to actually AWS or SDK. I mean, you might have seen that configuration is having that AWS, but in the upcoming releases, I think it is fine-tuned and the decision is happening at the service level itself. If you are passing me this set of configuration, it is made intelligent enough, okay, I need to initialize AWS to the caller function. I think he's switching back to 6.0. Just a moment.
The release has changed. So for 6.0, if you see the index.js file, just now we were seeing 5.2. There we had, if it is AWS, do something. If it is Azure, do something. If it is there was no OCI. I'm extremely sorry. If it is
that's why we commonly use AWS, Azure. Switching back in the discussion, it's easy rather than the OCI. And
so now it has totally changed. If you see in 6.0, it is cloud agnostic. I don't know. As a client, I need not know ki which is the cloud provider which will be used. I just have to update these values. This npm package will take a decision whether I have to initialize Azure, whether I have to initialize OCI, whether I have to initialize XYZ.
Here, completely it is unaware now. We don't have a keyword for AWS or Azure or anything because I send this. This configuration is coming from the DevOps when I inject. Right?
Depending on the provider.
So this value.
Depending on the provider, whatever it may be, it is updated in the DevOps, not even in the client. Only DevOps knows ki kaun sa wala.
That is, that is.
Yes. Yeah.
There is a mirror of the repo which is public. It's not like a private, completely private. Sunbird DevOps is available. Okay. Just a minute, Ranju. I'll wind up on this. Okay. So if you go this, there is something called a player.
So
you are on master.
If I take some service from Azure, so, and in DevOps I just mentioned Azure, we should be able to deploy Sunbird this particular application.
No. If you mention Azure, the application won't get deployed.
It will invoke that.
No.
It will be using the client.
No.
Using that Sunbird knowledge, right? For using that functionality, I can use that.
See, I am referring this variable, what I am showing at the screen. Okay, this will mention that use this service provider with this configuration.
Okay.
No deployments, nothing.
Okay. Which service to be used?
Provided. Okay, for these things to happen, let's say we are in.
That will be next step actually for getting the service, other details. That will be next package. After basically this is a config file I am setting.
Config file. This is only purely on the consumption side I am talking. Consumer side I am talking. Okay.
So
to get this happen, if you are in Azure, we need to set up all the infrastructure in the AWS. Let's say we are moving assumption. We need to set up the VMs and the S3 bucket, create the credentials, and you need to lock the bucket without giving the public access. You need to set up credentials. With that credentials, you will configure in the AWS and deploy. What happens? It will start communicating to the AWS. In case, in the Azure itself, if you want to access AWS bucket, yes, we have the freedom. I am using AWS for storage. Yes, you can do it. Agnostic. You keep file wherever you want. And security and these things, it's something which is configuration. If my instance, Sunbird instance is running in Azure and I want to store the file in GCP, you can do it. You just pass GCP and provider, it will start reading the buckets, files from the buckets in the GCP.
Rajesh, I know intuitively Azure and AWS comes to you naturally.
Yeah.
I'm using OCI.
OCI.
So can you? Okay.
That's why I had put a disclaimer like switching between AWS and Azure was quite easy.
Guys, okay. This is a question. Question to you guys because you guys.
Multi-cloud approach.
Yeah.
That's what.
No, it's not multi-cloud. It's not
multi-cloud. You can see the instances can be in different cloud.
Can be in AWS.
All your deployment is in
OCI. That is
but you said only my contents and are from S3 or Azure.
S3 or
Azure or GCI. Yeah, GCI. Okay. Now the thing is, you have deployed everything in OCI. Only my content will be stored in AWS or Azure. You can do that.
Okay. You know what? I mean,
so that kind of
situation
hypothetical. Yeah.
Possibilities.
Yeah. Before we proceed, okay, now because 5.1.2 is what Diksha is adopted. Can anyone tell how the OCI integration, how the portal application talking to OCI now? Because he explained about client services and all, right? Because you see the if conditions, there is no GCP, there is no OCI at all in the code. Now how it is working? Because the code is having only if condition of Azure, GCP and AWS.
OCI people, that's my understanding because I have not gone code level.
Okay.
So they have done whatever you were talking about to OCI, right? That configuration they have done at their end to adapt the cloud agnostic part. So that configuration they have done at their end, means at OCI level, so that the certain things are taken care.
Okay. Anybody else? Anybody can give how the portal is working for OCI? These are some of the information. Good. Okay. Anybody else who knows?
He wants to.
Okay.
Yeah, so like I think they introduced some variables for environment helper file and Sunbird DevOps also for the pipelines. And like those switch cases are written where all the cloud providers are there. So they introduced another switch OCI where they're calling that OCI client instance for usage using this client cloud services only.
It is not published. You did not see anything which is published with OCI.
Only, I think.
In their fork, they have done those changes and kept it in their fork and published it
We
on
wanted
their
to
own.
drive to that statement.
See. Yeah.
Yeah, initially it was standalone, and then it was reverted back to us.
In
also.
5.1, it is they have their own, but they contributed bit back. In 6.0, you can see in OCI is also there.
Okay.
In our 5.1, it is not there.
5.1 it was not there because.
In Sunbird 5.1, it was not there. Yes, yes.
But in between, when they did, they have contributed back.
Yes.
OCI is onboarded with the package.
Okay. So, morning, the question of NPM packages, right? The forking. You fork it, do whatever changes you want to do, and then do a deployment from there for your changes if you want to make it work. That's a temporary approach. What is the right approach? You have to contribute back to original fork back again with that changes. Then only is the right. Because the fork cannot go long time. Because
what will
the
happen
parent
is
will go with a different version.
we will not get that changes. And we will not, if we have done some improvements, they will not get it.
Yeah, so for our development team, so we have a baseline.
Yeah.
Okay, which 5.1 was
Yes, correct.
whatever
Deployed with the
changes
OCI
were
should
done
go.
by Oracle and all that we have. So post that, if they want to make changes, so they will not be posting it back to, or they might or might not, and whatever changes required, they might post it back to the central
repository. Correct. Client service.
So I think she was referring if the changes was done at their local end and they are just deploying it on our fork, means the earlier 5.10 extend whatever changes were. For that she was referring.
Yeah, that is possible, but the problem is on a longer run it will not sustain. Because you would have done some changes which is relevant to you only, but we would have improvised. Sunbird would have improvised or thought something else also will benefit. If we want to take 6.0 and your changes, now there is a conflict. Yours will get lost or ours will get lost. There is a catch.
That I got it. This actually gets into the best practices in any open source code. You will obviously make fork changes like what OCI did just now. So basis that that will have a shelf life. But it is better that you also look at the possibility of taking the main source code. Example, if you're having any of your Apache products, you would like to move to a next version. You would like to benefit from any open source. You like to benefit from what's the possibilities over there. Because when we are, when Sunbird or Apache or whoever is thinking, Neo4j, they're thinking from a larger base. It could be security, it could be scale, all of that. You need to also take that. So figure out how you have a local fork, and when that can be merged when you get into the next release. That's the thing you should probably look at.
So what should they do? I mean, for example, they are at 5.1. They have created, let's say,
fork. Yeah, they forked it.
And from local repository, they are doing certain changes. So you are saying that they should go and publish it to 5.1 or 6?
Yeah. So
they published it.
Yeah.
They've already gone. Immediately they have done a PR request for all the changes that they've done. So all of the OCI changes that was done for Diksha for their deployment, they have actually done PR requests.
No, the Oracle has done. Now let's say this team, current team, they are doing certain bug fix or whatever.
Yeah.
So my understanding is currently you guys are doing in local repository. Or you are doing in a private
fork versions of.
I'm sorry?
The fork versions, like some are working public repositories for Sunbird, some are fork versions, like which Oracle had worked on.
So they are working on the fork versions of the OCI, which OCI has merged. From that, they have copied it in their local and they are working on that.
It's a local repository. Correct. You take them local, but then they have a point. Let's say tomorrow.
Question very big.
Either changes will be lost or otherwise
so then we have to move that contribute to the
Six point zero is currently running on.
You contribute to that. And then, the lead will come back, assuming there's a community, there's a maintainer, chief maintainer for each of this. So we have organizations like probably Rajesh from Tarento maintains it for Ed.
Right.
So he will choose, okay, is this compatible from a coding point of view? And then
So that's his responsibility
it's
to
a
see
process
whether
to
it's
merge,
compatible.
to merge, and
merge to the-
or then he'll release. Or I don't know whether those checks are introduced in your DevOps also. For example, any PR contribution that happens, a Circle CI check does for about 85%
Test case coverage.
Otherwise, it does not even accept the PR.
Even I cannot merge it.
Even he cannot merge it.
Yeah.
So there are some automated checks that are anyway happening.
Yeah.
So you might want to think about introducing this even in your environment.
And how do we get, let's say there is some updates happening on 5.1 itself?
No updates. No.
5.1 is moved on.
So the thing is, development end of life. Our release, you would have seen our release calendars, right? So development end of life. One release is completed means that development end of life. Any P1 bugs comes only when we see P1 bugs. Usually there will not be P1 bugs. Only P1 bug comes, we will give a patch to that. Other than that, even in any of the open source, that is how it is. Once the end of life comes, end of development life comes, it will not be touched anymore.
And actually,
New releases will be created from that only.
Actually, we had a well-oiled machinery for P1. So you will definitely have, P1 bugs that are coming. But I'm saying P1 is the entire system is halting. And our SLAs was within 4 hours, the fix has to go into production. And that would go into 5.1, your existing 4, but it is also put in 6.1 into the master patch.
Forward merging
But as a
happens.
community, how you will know it's a P1? I mean, the implementation,
It's a-
whosoever is the one who is.
No, it's not a community. This is a
Okay.
deployment.
Okay.
It's a Diksha P1 bug.
Okay.
So Diksha might have a P1 bug. Like hypothetically, it's saying that, no mobile app is able to log in. Or, every mobile or
User is
not
blocked or
able-
showstopper
Yeah,
something.
there's a
I
showstopper.
got the point. The
Yeah.
reason I am asking is because my team should know that if it is a P1,
Yeah.
where to reach.
No,
Yeah.
P1 will have to be fixed by your team.
Okay.
The
Okay.
existing development team will have to fix it and contribute it back
Okay,
to
okay,
the
got it.
So Sunbird will still work on the community. See, right now there is Sunbird community is doing nothing for Diksha.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
this team is actually doing everything for Diksha.
Okay. Yeah.
Sunbird can offer you newer capabilities or performance enhancements or any other changes that definitely will benefit.
So let me ask you, for example, let's say some security vulnerability was found.
Correct.
Now, how to resolve that? Yeah, one way is that probably my team can do that.
Immediately, yes.
Is there any way I can reach out to the community?
Absolutely. In fact, if there's a security vulnerability, I would suggest reach out to the community because
It is
that's being
not.
fixed immediately.
That is not only Diksha's problem, it is a community problem actually. So vulnerabilities and the migration of the, let's say, we have used something called as Angular, Node, Java. If there is a, let's assume, just for an example, Java, they stop 8.0.
Yeah, some platform.
They don't want to support anymore. Angular, I think in September they are going to stop. Node 14 was stopped in last month. We have to shift it to the latest version. Otherwise, they won't support it. Now we have to move on. That is a community decision.
But then what is the practice? One way is that these guys will go and manually update the version.
Huh.
Or another is that you go and look at whatever is your pipeline and then change how they are.
Okay.
That's the best practice that you have to evolve.
Yeah.
For example, I'll tell you just to take an example, 3 years back with the log.js.
Log.js
The
vulnerability.
entire world was impacted.
Correct.
So we also had some areas where we're using, or we had to evaluate whether underlying library is actually using log.js. Top of it, we're not using it. But considering that we're using the entire open source system, we have to go back and actually navigate and find out. So that time it's best to reach out to the community to find out because somebody could have done that work. Community has actually done this work.
Okay. Yeah. Just to give the picture, today 5.1.2 of Sunbird being taken by OCA fork. They fork all the repositories of release 5.1.2 wherever the OCA changes required. OCA changes, specific changes required. They fork all the repositories. And then they made a OCA specific changes in all the repositories so that it will work for OCI infra, all the services and all. Then the team, from this fork, the deployments happened. Now the team is working on these forks only today. They're again forking from here. Maybe some people are directly working on this fork today. Today, this is what the team is working, 5.1.2. Yes, for the Diksha today. Diksha is adopted 5.1.2 of Sunbird today. Sunbird is moved to 5.2.0. Release also happened. On 6.0 release happened. There is a lot of tech stack upgradation, Angular 14 and everything. Today, this is in Angular 11. This is in Angular 14 today because Angular doesn't support anymore for Angular 11. We improved all those things. There are a lot of the cloud infra changes. What you see, there are if conditions before in this thing because that's why these guys has to write all those things. Now we made it. Don't write any if condition in the code. Make it a cloud service SDK change only. Okay, the common structure so that the new service provider comes, they know to fork all these things. They can make only changes here. That's good enough. Instead of going into each and every code and do a change. We made it a completely cloud agnostic so that they know to worry about where and where it's been implemented. What is SDKs? You tell me those SDKs. Any new service provider comes and they will only implement those SDKs. They don't know about where it's been used. They only test this SDKs, it's working, then entire Sunbird should work.
I have a question. Let's say if I take 6.2 version today, and I'm assuming that all the pipelines are compatible to deploy on OCA, correct? So if I take it today and deploy it, ideally it should work without any issue.
Without any issue.
Huh?
OCA also integrated now into the cloud SDK because OCA contributed all the PRs for this SDKs and all the things are getting into merge now. Okay. So when the 6.0 is released, okay, previously it was only 3. Now OCA also part of the cloud agnostic.
Cloud agnostic.
Sunbird is supporting OCA also.
Yeah, so
Okay.
6.0 is released or?
Not yet.
Not yet.
Not yet.
Okay.
Still under testing now. Testing is going on.
Okay, so you are testing, somebody is testing on Oracle.
going
Yeah.
on.
Sunbird testing, we have extensive testing that happens.
Okay,
But
okay.
I would also suggest when you choose to do this would be a major release, you would also have to have a full-fledged
Yeah, I got
process
it. Now,
and all of those things.
before that, we have to understand fully.
Absolutely.
Okay. So all these things will go out from the 6.0 when you move. Okay, they won't be specific to cloud agnostic.
5.1, 5.1.2. So it has public repo.
Yeah, all are public.
It has a private repo.
There's no private. As I told you, only DevOps is the only private repo in the Sunbird.
I think
Okay, in Diksha perspective,
we would
You
have,
have-
We will not know.
but my gut feel is you have a private repo. My gut feel is you definitely will have a private repo. The Sunbird community will not know.
okay, the landing page, whatever it comes, right, all the banners and all. So that is part of
Diksha.
public repo.
Diksha. That's the only Diksha.
That's Diksha. That's not Sunbird.
That's not Sunbird.
So that is Diksha
Private.
private repo, right?
Yeah. Maybe we don't know. Okay, that's a Diksha.
You think in Azure perspective, how
You will have private repos of
Private
Diksha.
Diksha.
Diksha will be there.
Diksha having many private repos.
we'll have the private repo.
You have many private repos, not only one. You guys have many private repos.
अभी अगर मुझे कुछ ये 5.1.2 ये चाहिए कोड चाहिए तो कहाँ पे अभी आज की डेट में कहाँ अपना
हमारे environment पे है, हमारे
OCN में है,
environment
full.
So, sir, Diksha, what they are saying is 5.1.2
Is already
whatever you have is based on 5.1.2
Sunbird.
Sunbird.
Yes.
Sunbird repo.
But core is Sunbird.
No. Maybe what he is taking is the landing pages.
Which is Diksha centric. Nothing to do with Sunbird.
There is nothing related to these versions at all.
All
There.
that will be Diksha repositories.
In the Diksha repo.
हाँ,
So because the same thing we have to talk when we are talking to even anyone, no? So that they will get focused. Yes, here is the code which we have it in, which we want to make some changes or whatever is required. And
and
then
do it on our own environment.
on our
Yeah,
environment.
there's nothing related to Sunbird. We just took their repo and make it a repo.
Sunbird is open source.
Yeah, so my question is, with a very foolish question maybe, how do you differentiate that this is the core platform code, this is the core platform code and this is the Diksha code?
No.
Based on the...
See, the thing is,